You're listening to Simply the Best Sports Take, the best podcast breaking down the best stuff in sports with host Sean Bingham. His takes are so good, he dropped the mic, but then you wouldn't be able to hear him, and that would suck.
Welcome into STB Sports Take, Simply the Best Sports Podcast. I am your host, Sean Bingham. As always, we are on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Anchor Podcasts, everywhere you get your podcasts. We're all over the globe, people. This is a global podcast. That was a really stupid joke to start with. Welcome. Thank you for being here. As always, please hit the subscribe button. And today is draft day, folks. It is draft day. The draft day is finally here, and we're going to dive into that pretty heavily. I'm going to bring on a good friend of mine, Ron Meeker. The guy legitimately knows more about the NFL draft than Todd McShay and Mel Kiper themselves. And he's got a very hot take, very, very hot take. So you're going to stay tuned for that. Before we get in there, though, I'm going to talk just briefly about the NBA, and then we're going to turn the time over to the interview with Ron. Last night, Lakers lose to the Wizards. They have Anthony Davis back. He actually played pretty well. They still can't win. Wizards are surging. What did I say? What have I said all season long? With Russell Westbrook and Bradley Beal, they have to figure this out. They're going to make the playoffs. The Wizards now are really, really doing it. Russell Westbrook with another triple-double. He will average a triple-double for the fourth season. He had 3 straight. Then he didn't have one with the Rockets, and he'll have one again now. But the guy's an animal, and he didn't even make the All-Star game. It's just insane to me that he didn't even make the All-Star game. He has too many turnovers, can't shoot that well. We've talked about it. But what's interesting about this is that the Lakers lose again. They're now just a game and a half up on the Mavericks for the 6th seed, where the Jazz want to see the Mavericks rise and the Lakers drop, because we know LeBron James is going to come back healthy for the playoffs, and we know the second he comes back, they're title contenders once again. So we would like to see the Lakers drop down to that 6th seed. They're now just a game and a half out of the 6th seed, in the wrong direction for them, from the 5th seed down. But they have a pretty tough schedule left. They have quite a tough schedule left, whereas the Mavericks have a very easy remaining schedule. And I think LeBron's going to continue to sit. So I am very hopeful as a Jazz fan that the Mavericks will rise to the 5 seed. The Lakers will fall to the 6th seed. Now the kicker is the Jazz have to remain in that 1 seed. They absolutely destroyed the Kings last night by 49 points. 49 points. Without Mike Conley, without Donovan Mitchell. This is the same team that just dropped 2 straight to the Timberwolves. It beats me how that happens. But we've got a massive game tomorrow against the Suns, and the winner will be in the driver's seat for that number 1 seed, because while the Jazz are ahead by 1 game ahead of the Suns, who beat the Clippers last night because freaking Kawhi Leonard is always hurt, and, you know, it's his foot, it's his blah, 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 it's always something. Go out and play, dude. You're like an MVP caliber player. Your team is fighting for playoff seeding, and you're going to sit out? I mean, in the end, they want to be healthy for the playoffs. I want them to be healthy for the playoffs. It's just with Kawhi Leonard, it's like the boy who cried wolf. We just don't know if we even believe his injuries at this point, because there's always something. There's always some reason why he needs to sit out. So the Clippers lose last night to the Suns. So again, there's just a 1-game gap between the Jazz and the Suns, but the Suns own the tiebreaker. So the Jazz now have to go on the road in Phoenix tomorrow night and play the Suns without Donovan Mitchell, and the winner of that game is in the driver's seat as the number 1 seed in the entire NBA. Huge game for the Jazz tomorrow night. Huge game for the Jazz tomorrow night without Donovan Mitchell. So a lot of season left still. It's not like that's the final game or something, but it's a very, very critical game, so we'll be tuned into that. Last thing I wanted to mention about the NBA, just with regards to that, I'm actually going to save that for tomorrow. It's a long enough topic. I'm going to save it for tomorrow. Today's draft day. Let's focus on the draft. Ron Meeker, an absolute genius, a wizard. Let's bring him in. And we welcome into Simply the Best Sports Podcast, Ron Meeker. Ron, welcome. How you doing? I know you just golfed. How'd it go?
Actually, I'm heading out in a little bit, Sean. I've prioritized you and your podcast above my practice range time. So this is an important day. All right, we got to prioritize.
Very important day. I could think of no one better than having you on the podcast. For those that don't know, Ron is the expert in the NFL. He used to beat me up for years in fantasy football trades, or at least try to. I basically just learned to not do a trade.
You just vetoed. He just vetoes every trade just because the fear of perhaps getting a bad deal.
Yeah. No, but nobody follows this closer than Ron. So Ron, I don't know how many episodes you've listened to, but I've talked about the quarterback stuff the most because that's the hottest. And you were just, saying before we went live here that is the hot topic, so let's just dive in. What were you about to tell me before we hit the record button?
Okay. So there's 5 quarterbacks in this draft of significance, and there's about 7 or 8 teams that need a quarterback. And so what you're going to see is some teams are already positioned. Jacksonville is going to take Trevor Lawrence at number 1. There's different reasons for that, but basically he's the highest rated quarterback in a while since Andrew Luck, and it would just be stupid to not do that. So they brought in Urban Meyer to coach him. He's from Georgia. He played school in South Carolina, and then they're drafting him in Jacksonville. So it's kind of a fit locally. It makes a big deal sometimes. And that's just, they're not going to go away from that. So that one's locked in.
Quick question on him before we move to the Jets. I'm sure you saw the report about the Sports Illustrated article that came out where he's talking about how he doesn't have a chip on his shoulder. And it kind of came across like Trevor Lawrence almost doesn't care much. Did you see that article?
He's more of an easygoing type guy. There's some quarterbacks that are kind of the Eli Manning type, their personality is a little more easygoing. They're still effective and stuff. And some are a little more fiery. Yeah. And he's definitely a little bit easygoing. Some people have questioned whether he's got that competitive fire that your Brady's and your, Russell Wilsons and stuff like that have. And he probably doesn't as much. Think of more like a Deshaun Wilson, for example, aside from all the drama that's going on lately. Yeah. But you can be a good quarterback. You can be a very good quarterback and be calm. A lot of times it's better for you to be calm in the pocket. But again, everybody is a risk. You don't know until you get in the pros how good they are. It's very difficult to assess quarterbacks.
It's crazy. I've said before on the podcast that we've got guys that dedicate their entire lives to picking the right quarterback, and most of the time they swing and miss. It's like I've compared it to a venture capitalist or a private equity firm. They'll go invest in 100 companies, and 90 of them are just total strikeouts. But those 10 that they get good. So.
Yeah, and this is the reason, just for people who may not understand, you think, how can you miss on a quarterback? How is it that you miss? And this is the best way to explain it. Let's say that you were practicing rifle shooting, marksmanship, and they took you to the range and they taught you all the things you need. You set up your rifle. They taught you the breathing. They taught you the sight. They taught you the trigger technique so that you get everything so that you're consistently shooting at a target accurate at a mile away, okay? And then you take that same person and you put him in Alaska for a Kodiak bear hunt, and you have a Kodiak charging at him. And now you've got to pull up accurately. Okay.
Yeah.
And suddenly you have adrenaline in the moment. Things happen that are not the same anymore. And now suddenly your accuracy's off and you can't get you're jamming, you're fluttering. I know guys, I won't mention my name, that I've gone on hunts with that start shaking in the moment when that happens. And that's what happens with quarterbacks too. That's why golfers, the best golfers in the world, miss 3-foot putts. And on the 18th hole of the Masters, hit it in the trees. And Jordan Spieth hits it in the drink 3 times coming down the stretch. It's because in the live moment, the nerves get to you, and you can't tell from a college quarterback which are the ones that are going to stay calm and execute, and which are the ones that are going to kind of fall apart a little bit until they get there. And that's why they miss.
Right. And I don't disagree with any of that, but why is it that that's not the case with a lot of these other positions? Because they're still playing it in college. They've still experienced at least a version of the Kodiak charging them at the college level. Right. And so why is there such a drastic, I know the athleticism is far superior and things like that, but you can watch an offensive lineman come in from college and be dominant year one. You can watch the same thing with receivers and running backs, but not quarterbacks.
Yeah. And it's because the mental aspect of the game. When you're a running back, all that you do is you catch the ball, you look at a hole, and your instinct reacts to it. Okay. It's like playing ping pong. Whereas with a quarterback, you have to look over a defense. And in college, you have about 30 plays. Some schools may have 50 plays. That's a lot of plays to know.
Yeah.
And in the NFL, you got booklets of 300, 400 variations of plays. So not only do you have to know all of your own plays, but the defense has got 300 different potential alignments, and they will disguise them so that they will set up an alignment that they know that you've previously looked at that alignment and that you think they're going to run one thing. And then when the snap comes, they drop back into zone. Now you have to adjust. It's a very quick mental processing thing while you have these guys charging down at you at the same time. So you have to be making decisions quickly, then throwing accurately under pressure. And these defensive guys are big and fast and strong. You get hit a couple times and that throws stuff out. So it's very hard to mentally process the quarterback position. So you better be very smart or very fast or both, hopefully.
Yeah. And so Trevor Lawrence, number one, and 2 is the Jets. And this is the big one where it's like everyone's saying Zach Wilson. I'm guessing that's what you're going to predict as well, but let's hear it.
So the Jets have been known to pick the wrong guy.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
On a number of occasions. Okay. It's not just once or twice. It's a habitual pandemic in their organization. Okay. Where they have picked wrong guys. Even when they pick the right guy, Jamal Adams, their decision making of whether to pay him or trade him away to the Seahawks, they're one good player for more picks that they're going to miss on anyway is mind boggling. So that's the reason why Kyle Shanahan at 3 is not saying a word.
Yeah.
Because I guarantee you Kyle Shanahan knows which guy he wants at 3. And he's saying, if I open my mouth and say who I want at 3, the Jets are going to say, well, we don't know what we're doing. We always make a mistake. Maybe Kyle Shanahan knows more than we do. Let's take the guy he says and pass on the other one. So he's not saying a word right now, but you don't give up 3 first-round picks. He's saying there's a lot of guys we're comfortable with. We just want no. He knows which guy he wants. He's traded up there. He's counting on the Jets to take Zach Wilson, and then he's going to take his guy. Now, given the fact that the Jets, have a lot of different scouts and opinions that may be right or wrong, okay, and they give their advice and their leads, most people think they're taking Zach Wilson.
Yeah.
Okay? The reason why they're taking Zach Wilson is because they're saying, number one, this is New York, and we need to advertise a model, a type of person that fits in New York that may not fit in other cities. And we feel that Zach Wilson is that guy, that he can handle it and he can be the big primetime quarterback that we want. Okay. When they were faced with a similar decision, they took a Sam Darnold. They're comfortable with that type of image, if you're getting what I'm saying. And they're seeing Zach Wilson the same. That's what we think they're going to do. Okay. He's got a big arm and he didn't have very much talent surrounding him. And he showed up pretty well this last year. And they're like, well, it couldn't get any worse support than the Jets. So he couldn't be any worse with the Jets. Maybe we can give him some support and he'll be better. We'll see what they do. They're very unpredictable, but all the odds makers say they're taking Zach Wilson.
Yeah, it's so like a minus. Last I checked, it was a minus 3,000 in Vegas. Zach Wilson going number 2. Yeah. So.
And so with that in mind, you now have to ask what Kyle Shanahan is doing. You got to understand Shanahan and Lynch are very intelligent people. They're very secretive. Last year, they didn't let on who they were going to draft. Everyone thought they were drafting a tackle. Turns out they had a trade in their back pocket for Trent Williams for the tackle. Nobody knew about that. And then they take the D tackle in their spot to make up for the Forrest Buckner trade. Everyone says they're taking CeeDee Lamb at wide receiver. They really wanted Brandon Ayuk, and it was all silent. No one knew a thing. So nobody, including myself, nobody but 3 people know who they want at quarterback right now.
Yeah.
And that is their coach, their GM, and their owner. That's it.
Yep. So they just got Jimmy G a couple seasons ago, right? And obviously they're moving on from him. You don't move up that far in the draft and give up what they gave up to go to the 3rd pick if you're going to keep Jimmy Garoppolo. So what I'm hearing the most is probably Mac Jones. I look at the mock drafts from the Mel Kipers, Todd McShay's. They're also saying Mac Jones. Do you have a? I know you're not.
I'm gonna go out on a limb. I think that's not correct, and here's the reason why. I think with Justin Fields, you've got someone who obviously runs a 4.4, and when you've listened to past comments by Shanahan, you've heard him say that what ideally he wants is a quarterback who runs like Lamar Jackson and throws like Drew Brees. Okay. They've got a guy in Jimmy Garoppolo that, in my opinion, is very similar to Mac Jones. I don't see that big of differences. I mean, maybe Mac Jones, is his arm stronger? Not really. Is he faster? No.
Mm-hmm.
What's the difference really? They've already got Mac Jones. So I just, in my mind, I'm like, if you're trading up 3 first-round picks to go up to get a guy who's pretty similar to what you got right now, it doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I think they want some guy who can run. And I think the reason why is that Kyle Shanahan is very cutting edge. He very much looks forward to the new trends and new things that are happening. And I think he sees the way the NFL is going, and all these quarterbacks, Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson, Dak Prescott, Pat Mahomes, they're
Lamar
all
Jackson,
dual threat. Lamar Jackson, they're all dual threats. And I think he says, I'll take my chances with a guy like Justin Fields and train him to run my offense accurately and throw accurately, who can run and add a new dimension on the defense. That's what makes sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the fact that everyone thinks he's taking Mac Jones, that's, that could be. We don't know. No one knows.
That might be exactly what he wants people to think.
That may be what he wants him to think. Okay. Because if you really want to dive deep, he's telling everyone, I don't want Justin Fields at all.
Yeah.
I want Matt Jones.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, so Justin Fields
the Jets are not even considering anymore. Oh, should we take Justin Fields?
Yep.
He's not even in consideration for the.
Yeah.
We're right with Zach Wilson, and he's right. It's the same kind of guy, but we got the better guy. So I think they already decided on Fields a while ago, but we'll see. We'll see
what do you think of because I heard Colin Cowherd yesterday say, and he had been saying Mac Jones. Then just yesterday, he's like, I changed my mind. He's like, I feel like they've got Jimmy Garoppolo, who's a guy that can actually, he got you to a Super Bowl already. Bring in a guy like Trey Lance, whose ceiling appears to be the highest, but he's also kind of the biggest unknown because he played at North Dakota State. Bring in a guy like Trey Lance, where you have this huge upside potential. And if it flops, you at least have Jimmy Garoppolo still. He's thinking they're going to stick with Jimmy Garoppolo. Do you think they'll move on from Garoppolo like right away within the next couple days? Or do you think we'll?
It's a good question.
Yeah.
It's a good question. So no rookie quarterback has ever won a Super Bowl before.
No.
There've been a couple that have been close. I think Marino was kind of close. Ben Roethlisberger was close. But even Pat Mahomes, for as good as he is, they sat him almost his whole first year. Lamar Jackson, they sat him the whole first year. The reason why is because the quarterback, you put him out there, you throw him to the Lions when he can't process all the defense, and it's really going to have a detrimental effect. You've got to give him a year to understand what he's looking at on the field so that he has a chance at least. Yeah. And so if you get rid of Garoppolo and bring in a rookie, I don't care how good he is, you're not winning a Super Bowl with a rookie quarterback ever. No. And so I think that they honestly feel like, well, Jimmy got us there before, he can get us there. If something goes wrong, maybe we bring in a rookie who's fast and athletic and let our defense and running game get us through, and let the rookie run if he needs to, and maybe give that a try. Mm-hmm. But I don't think at this point that they're looking to get rid of him. Having said that, we're going to watch what the Patriots do, because the Patriots are going for a quarterback badly, and their choices are move up to number 4 or 5 and give up tons of picks to go from 12 to 4 or 5, or they can give a second and get Jimmy Garoppolo, who they already are familiar with. So a lot of people think they're going to say that they've already said to the 49ers, let's wait and see what happens with the draft. If our guys go before 12, we'll make the trade for Garoppolo, and then you can go ahead and have Jared Goff be your veteran. Josh Rosen be your veteran, and let your rookie come on. So we don't know. Yeah. No one's telling broadcasting what they're going to do. We've got the Patriots, the Denver Broncos, the Chicago Bears that are all desperate for a quarterback. Mm-hmm. And there's going to be 2 of them left in the draft. We've also got the Redskins that could make a move. The Carolina Panthers could still make a move. Mm-hmm. And who knows who else, what other surprise teams might make a move. So I believe there's going to be some trades coming in the top 7 picks.
Yeah, no, I don't doubt it. So it'd be interesting. Do you think it's a risk though, because Jimmy G, he gets hurt. So do you risk keeping him and having him get hurt and then having his trade value go way down? Whereas right now, I feel like his trade value is actually pretty high. Like the guy, when healthy, wins games and went to a Super Bowl. And he's certainly not old. It feels like his trade value is much higher right now. Do you think that would play a role at all in the Niners wanting to just say, you know what, Justin Fields or Mac Jones or whoever they take, you're going to start and we're going to be mediocre, and that's okay.
Yeah, I didn't think that Matt Stafford was going to be traded for as much as they gave up in LA.
Yeah.
That seemed like a lot for me to give up for Matt Stafford. And so trade values are going higher. I guess the Bears made a ridiculous offer for Russell Wilson,
Yeah.
and they turned that down. And so, I mean, then you see Sam Darnold go for basically a second round pick and a couple other, 4th and 6th or something like that, which I thought was a little bit low. So I would think that Jimmy Garoppolo is trading for at least a second rounder. I don't know if they'd get the number 12 from the Patriots, but I mean, it would be the second plus something else for him, which, I mean, they got to decide.
Do you think Belichick would want Garoppolo, one, because yes, he's familiar with him, but two, just to kind of like prove a point that he was right in the beginning and drafting him and wanting to keep him and kind of shoo Tom Brady out of town, and then he has to go watch Tom Brady win a Super Bowl in Tampa Bay, and now he wants to get his own guy back and prove that he was right? Do you think there's part of that?
I don't think so, because I think that if he brings him back and he's wrong and Jimmy's the same Jimmy in San Francisco, then he's going to look really, really bad. So I think that what he's looking to do is to say, I'm going to get a guy that I think is going to fit my system, like a Mac Jones, who's very smart and does what I tell him to do. I don't need him to have a giant arm. I need him to do exactly what I tell him to do. And I think that's the guy that he's probably looking at making a move for. But again, we'll see. We don't know. No one's telling us what they're doing yet.
I know. So where would you rank Trey Lance? Would you say Trey Lance, in your opinion, is the worst of the five?
I would take Trey Lance over Mac Jones. And here's the reason why.
Okay.
Everything that you look at Mac Jones tells you he couldn't beat out Tua. He couldn't beat out Jalen Hurts. So the coach that's looking at those three every day said Tua gives us a better chance than Mac Jones. Yep. Jalen Hurts gives us a better chance than Mac Jones. Yep. That's the one who's looking at them all three together. Now, could he surprise everyone and be way better than Saban thought? Maybe. But Saban's the one who knows him best, and that's what he thought. Secondly, he's going with a team that not only has two of the best wide receivers in the entire draft, they're going top 10, okay, but he's also got an incredible offensive line that protects him, an incredible running game. Now, I know there's different stats about talking about when he is under pressure and, the times when things break down. That's all great. All I'm saying is every number he's done it, every pass he's thrown has been to elite wide receivers, elite running game, and a defense that puts him in position to go in from the 30-yard line every time and put up those numbers. So it's very difficult to tell what's going to happen when you put him on a team like the Jets, put him on a team, that's maybe not as efficient at doing all those things. Is he going to carry the team? And that's a big gamble. So for me, if I'm, ranking them, I'm going with Trevor Lawrence first, and then Zach Wilson, then Justin Fields, then Trey Lance, and then I got Mac Jones beneath them.
So Mac Jones would fall to 15 to the Patriots, right?
No. I don't think he's fallen that far.
No?
I think you got too many teams that are willing to take a chance on Mac Jones, and teams that Atlanta has said they're looking to trade down. The Bengals could trade down. They don't traditionally trade down, but they could trade down. And then I believe it's the Dolphins are in there too, who've been doing a lot of moving, but I think they would trade down for the right price. And that's because we know Denver wants a QB. And so those 4, 5, and 6 spots is where they would be looking to trade up. So I don't think a quarterback falls to 12. I think they have to make a move.
You think so? I'm just on this other screen here that's why I'm looking over here. But this is Todd McShay's mock draft. It's either him or Mel Kiper. Yeah, it's Todd McShay's. He's got the Broncos taking Trey Lance at number 9. He has Mac Jones going 3rd to the Niners, and then he has Justin Fields going 11th to the Patriots, which is a mock trade he's got with the Giants. So he's also got them all in the top 12, just like you're saying. So.
Yeah, I think they're even going higher this year because teams are desperate. I think Chicago was willing to give up a ton to get Russell Wilson. I think Denver was willing to give up a ton to get Deshaun Watson, and that with teams that are already got their mindset on trading up those picks, I think people are trading up a little bit higher. But
yeah,
We'll see. That'll be interesting. In the meantime, with the whole COVID season, this is the other interesting thing that's happened. A lot of guys opted out of their year because of COVID, which is fine. That's their decision. But it makes it very difficult for a GM to draft a guy, especially in the first round, that didn't play this last year. And it's the equivalent of, let's say that you knew a girl about 2 years ago that you had met at, a couple of parties and you were kind of talking to a little bit. Then she disappears. She goes to New Zealand for a couple years. She comes back. And her friend tells you she wants to marry you, and you need to decide to propose right now. And you're like, well, can I see her? Can I go? No. You can send her a text. But you've got to buy a ring right now based on what you remember from 2 years ago at a party. And you got to buy her. And that's what the NFL teams are going. They're like, well, yeah, I mean, if it was 2 years ago and I had to make the decision then yes. But I haven't seen her. I don't know what she looks like. I don't know what she's been through. I mean, what's been happening this last year? This is a big decision to commit. I don't know if I feel good about that. I'd rather the girl I've been going out with for a few months right now, I feel more comfortable there. So many GMs are saying that kind of takes them off our board when they've been out for COVID for that whole time. And so you're going to see some players that go higher this year because they played, and some guys that slip because they skipped out the year. So it's going to be very interesting. The board is all over the place on these guys. But typically what you look for that in these drafts, whenever you're projecting things, is the edge rushers and the corners and the really, really fast receivers go higher than you expect. Yeah. The ones that go lower than you expect are the interior offensive linemen, the middle linebackers, and the middle defensive linemen are typically what happens. And safeties will drop a little bit too. So when you're looking at draft boards right now, when you see the draft boards that say Jason Owa, the edge rusher from Penn State, and people are saying, yeah, he's the middle of the second round. No. When you're an edge rusher and you are 6'4", 5", 260, and you run a 4.39. Okay. I don't care if he has no sacks. They're going to draft him higher. They're going to say he's too good of an athlete. He's going higher. The tight end, Kyle Pitts. Yeah. Who cares if he's skinny? He's so fast. They're going to draft him higher.
Well, people are saying he might be the best player in the draft. He's not a quarterback, so he's not going to go number one. But you think, most of the mock drafts that I'm seeing are saying he'll go 4th to the Falcons. Is that no?
I don't think so. We'll see. But I think that Falcons pick is going to be too valuable to trade. I think they'll trade out of that pick. But we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Do you think we'll see quarterbacks at 1, 2, 3, and 4?
I think someone will trade up to 4. I do.
Wow. Have we ever had that? Has there ever been 4 consecutive quarterbacks taken?
Yeah, no, I don't think so. I don't think there's ever been. But I know they're going 1, 2, 3.
For sure, yeah.
I think someone's going to get antsy and say, I better move up to 4, because Miami, remember, they traded down, then they traded back up again to get to 5, I think it is, that they're at. Yeah. And then the Bengals are probably going to take either the tackle or the receiver, Chase or Penei Sewell. It's down to those two. And so then if they like those two and they're not really interested in trading, that means you got to look to 4 or 5 to trade, because you start getting to 7 and now the Broncos are in play and you got to get ahead of them.
Wow. Be interesting, because one of these guys, one of them, probably multiple of these guys are going to be total busts. And it's just crazy to think that these teams could be mortgaging their future to get a guy who ends up, winning like 4 games a year for him for 3 seasons before they give up on him.
Yeah. And the crazy thing is, when you look lately at the past several years, it's not been the number 1 quarterback that's been the hit.
Yeah.
Okay. It's been the Deshaun Watson down a little bit. It's been, you look back, Pat Mahomes going 10.
Yep. Lamar Jackson was like 26th or whatever he was.
Exactly. And so that's why I think there's going to be a rush on these guys that are the Trey Lance and the Fields, because there's some wild card ability there. Their ceiling's very high if they do hit. I just don't think they're passing on those kind of guys. I think they're going to trade up.
Yeah. Do you have, and I know you got to get to your golf round there, but I know you're a big Steelers fan, so I want to hear your thoughts on what the Steelers are going to do. And then I'm a big Washington football team fan, Washington, whatever they're going to be fan.
Yeah.
What are they going to do? Do you have any insight on that? I know we didn't, that might not be top on your list of prep time, but.
No, I got you. So the Steelers have about 5 needs, and they really could take any one of those 5. But the way that they usually operate is their owner, Rooney, comes out and says what he wants every year. He's kind of straightforward. He kind of he's not very sneaky about it. He comes out and says, we had the worst running attack in the league last year, and we don't want that ever to happen again. We got to fix it. Mm-hmm. So the Steelers' whole team went to scout Najee Harris, the running back out of Alabama, and Travis Etienne, the running back out of Clemson. And then their running back coach, since it was the same day as the Clemson one, went to see Javonte Williams in North Carolina. So the odds that they're taking a running back of some kind are, in my mind, about 60%.
Okay.
One of those 3 guys, I believe, is their choice, because then there's a big drop-off after that.
Yeah.
It's very hard to go to your owner and explain to him why, when he wants the running game fixed, you had a running back that was a top 1 and you didn't take him.
Yeah.
And then later you got screwed and didn't get the guy that you wanted, and the running game's still not fixed.
Yeah.
The only other possibility is to say part of the reason the running game's so bad is because we have no center. Marquise Pouncey was on his last legs last year, and now he's retired. Yeah. So all we got is a backup in there right now. So maybe they take one of the top 2 centers, Landon Dickerson out of Alabama or Creed Humphrey out of Oklahoma. That's the odds right now, is 80% either a center or a running back is going.
How often do you see a center go in the first round? What's the norm there?
It's not as often, but the Steelers value that position more than about any other team. Yeah. And so to them, they have high value. They drafted Marquise Pouncey in like the teens, and he was a great return on them of investment. Yeah, and so they will do it again. They will do it again. As far as the Redskins go, let me tell you something, okay? The Redskins have always had trouble finding a quarterback that can really carry him. And so there's always talk about them making a move for a quarterback. But they do, they make the move for Haskins, and they feel good about it, and then it doesn't work out. And so what are they going to do, blow another one? Well, what they've done recently is they've secretly gotten one of the absolute best defensive lines in football. Yeah. And nobody knows about it. Everyone's just like, the Redskins. The Steelers played them and got absolutely decimated by their front 4 defensive linemen. Yeah. They are all 4 beasts. They just went first round. And then they've got that front set up. They've also got a good corner in there. And there's talk that they're just going to say, let's go all out defense. And let's just get a really good linebacker in that spot that can be behind those, because that's what Tampa Bay did.
Yep.
Tampa Bay got their defense doing all of that. So there's talk that that's what they'll do as well. I wouldn't be surprised to see them draft a corner. They're always willing to draft a corner high, and they could draft a linebacker high. That's where I would lean. Does that mean they won't draft an offensive lineman? No, of course they could draft an offensive lineman, but it's just hard for me to see them going away from corner, linebacker, offensive lineman this particular draft. That's what
So with that, I got to ask, what do you think, the NFC East, one of the most historic, if not the most historic divisions in football, but also the most pathetic last year, right? I got to call them the Washington football team now. Yeah. They win the division with a losing record. How do you see that? Dak Prescott's back. He got his extension. How do you see that playing out next season with the NFC East?
It's so difficult. It's so difficult in the NFC East because each of those teams has such a big drastic flaw. The Cowboys are going to put up so many points next year. They're going to put up a ton of points, but they don't play any defense. Mm-hmm. And then meanwhile, you have the Eagles who, they've got, Jalen Hurts now is their quarterback there?
Yeah. Yeah.
Who knows how that's going to go his second year? They'll probably be in the mix somewhere. Washington will have the best defense by far. And then it's just a question of how are they going to, score some points.
Yeah.
I don't even know.
It's magic, baby.
Yeah. I don't even know that quarterback situation is going to go. And then the Giants, have put some pieces in place, they should be better than they are. But I would have to put the odds on the Cowboys right now with a healthy Dak Prescott and the weapons that he's got. I know it's just one of those things you have to gamble on. And I think that Dallas has got the most pieces that they can count on right now. So.
Okay. So if you have any more draft nuggets for us, let me know. If not, I have one last question with your predictions for next year in the Super Bowl, because Chiefs and Buccaneers are obviously the favorites. The Bucs re-signed everybody, including your guy Antonio Brown. They just re-signed him to a 1-year deal where he's getting paid pennies on the dollar.
Yeah.
Who is your prediction for next year's Super Bowl?
It makes a big difference. It makes a big difference when you have arguably the best quarterback ever that comes in at a reduced salary. What are they paying him? Like $16 million a year or something, like $20 million?
Yeah, but it's all fudged where they pay it later. It's all in signing bonuses and weird.
Yeah,
They've kind of found ways to
they're paying him nothing compared to Dak Prescott's $40 million a year, and Tom Brady comes in at 20. It makes a big difference. You get Antonio Brown to come in for $2 million. You get Gronk to come in for $1 million. You get Leonard Fournette to come in for $1 million. It's like, it's not just having talent, it's having all these star players come in and play for nothing.
Yep.
It makes them tough to beat, but I mean, they're probably pretty well favored. I just think that the Packers are the stupidest organization on the face of the earth, because they have a team to win it all. All they need is just give Rodgers one more weapon, and they take 2 picks to trade up for Jordan Love. Not just 1, 2 picks to trade for Jordan Love does nothing. If he's in the NFC Championship game with an extra receiver, an extra weapon, or even a big like defensive, stud, then they probably win. They're probably there. So maybe they'll make some better decisions this year. But I think that the Packers have just as good of odds as the Tampa Bay Bucks. And I know people will get they don't want to hear this, but the 49ers should have been the favorite last year had they not had been decimated with 6 injuries.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at the 49ers, the Packers, and the Tampa Bay as the top 3, and we'll just see how injuries hit. That'll make a big deal. Packers lost both of their starting tackles for the NFC Championship game. That's very tough to overcome against a good defense.
So those are your top 3 in the NFC. What about in the AFC?
AFC, I'm a little bit biased, okay? But watching the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, I don't care if you're a Chiefs fan or a Chiefs hater, the Chiefs played like absolute dog crap.
Yeah, they did.
In the Super Bowl. Pat Mahomes did not look anywhere near an MVP quarterback. There's some chinks in the armor. And so they've decimated their offensive line. Now they just brought in Orlando Brown, and they're trying to put that back together. Yep. They're still going to be really good. They're probably favored in Vegas, but I'm not so sure. I think that Tampa really whooped them badly. And I'm talking their defense made the Kansas City offense look inept.
It did.
And so I'm not so convinced that that's going to be there. I think that, the Bills are getting better each year. I think they'll be in contention. I'm not convinced that Lamar Jackson is a playoff QB.
I'm not either.
I'm not convinced that Baker Mayfield's a playoff QB. Yeah. And I'm not convinced that Carson Wentz is a QB. So whereas in the NFC, there's 3 teams I really like. In the AFC, it's hard to say any team is better than the Chiefs. Mm-hmm. And I don't even think the Chiefs are that much a lock. So
the Bills to me would be the next best for sure. They're right there. But Josh Allen's a guy where I'm like, is he overachieving or is he really this good? I guess we'll find out.
See, the Bills need to be a little better on defense. Their defense was not so good last year. They need a couple more weapons on defense, and then they could be right there. But I think the AFC is the Chiefs, and then it's wide open. There's like 6 teams I think that could compete, and it's going to depend on injuries, as it always does. Just like your fantasy team every year, Sean. You have a good team. You draft a good team, and then your top 3 guys out for the year injuries, and it's tough. It's tough to compete when everyone else has healthy guys and you're scrounging around on the wire. So I'm going down with my prediction that it's going to go Trevor Lawrence, it's going to go Zach Wilson, and it's going to go Justin Fields as the top 3.
I love that.
And then there's going to be trades going up for the next 2.
I love that because nobody else is predicting that. So this is going to hit the airwaves here in the next 30 or 40 minutes. And nobody else is saying Justin Fields third. Everyone's saying Mac Jones, maybe Trey Lance. But nobody's saying Justin Fields, I feel like. So I love that prediction.
I don't see why you would trade 3 picks for a guy who's very similar to Garoppolo. It doesn't make sense to me. I think that, either Trey Lance or Justin Fields makes more sense. And I think Justin Fields makes the most sense. So
yeah, I love it.
See what goes down.
All right, Rondo. Appreciate you being here, buddy. And good luck with your golf.
All right. Thanks, buddy. I'll talk to you soon.
I told you he had a hot take. Ron Meeker with Justin Fields going number 3. Nobody's saying that. They were a month ago, but Justin Fields' stock has been dropping like a rock. Mac Jones has been rising. Trey Lance has been rising. And Justin Fields has been kind of a forgotten man. But maybe Ron's right. Maybe this is just some magical trick that Kyle Shanahan's doing in San Francisco to get everybody to look the other way while he's over here drafting Justin Fields, trading away picks to get to number 3, to get Justin Fields, because he knows how fixated on Zach Wilson the Jets are. And he just wants to say, you know what, stay fixated on him, and we're kind of interested in Mac Jones, we're kind of interested in Trey Lance, they're kind of equal in our eyes. They've said that, right? Just recently they said, the Niners have said, well, we kind of like both these guys, Mac Jones and Trey Lance. But Ron's right. You don't trade away 3 picks to just get a guy that whoever's available at 3. We're kind of happy with all of them. No, they know exactly who they want. I think that's a great take. I don't know if it's Justin Fields or not, but and I said that, a month ago when they made the trade. They know exactly who they want. They know who they want. That's why they're moving all the way up to 3 to get him. We just don't know who it is. I love that he thinks it's Justin Fields. Very interested to see what happens tonight. Guys, that's the podcast. Tune into the NFL draft tonight and tune into me mañana. I am out. Peace.
Thanks for hanging with Simply the Best Sports Take. Don't forget to subscribe to this podcast and check out STBSportsTake.com. Simply the best in sports. 'Cause we are